another episode of Positive Parenting with Astrology. I am your host and resident Gemini, Maria Riegger. And today we have Alicia Krasko with us, who is a parenting coach specifically geared toward helping step parents. Alicia is the second step parenting coach I've had on the channel. And this is a subject I am really interested in and passionate about because I was a stepchild myself. My mother's been married 3 times. So I come at this from the perspective of the stepchild. And so, Alicia comes at the perspective from the perspective of the step parent. So it's great to get that input from that side. And as people are living longer, having more relationships, more children, it is not uncommon to have multiple, marriages and to have blended families. It's getting more and more common to have blended families. So this issue and these set of skills about how to parent and how to be a step parent in a blended family and form those strong relationships, it's becoming more and more important. So Alicia, first I want to welcome you. Thank you for making the time to be with us today.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for having me. So full disclosure, I actually was am a stepchild too. So I have I can look back with adult eyes and be like, oh, yikes, maybe I didn't make it easier either. But yeah. So
well, I love that you have that double perspective. And, it's not, in my opinion, I don't think it's the child's responsibility for that family dynamic. It's the adult's responsibility. So I'm not telling you how to feel, but you as a kid, you dealt with the situation as it was. I don't know that it would be fair to think of you as having any culpability. You know what I mean? It's the adult. That's my position, at least. It's the adult's responsibility, right? To maintain their relationship.
When my mom started dating a new guy when I was 12, and she had multiple boyfriends before then as well. And so it was just another guy, right? And he had said, do you have any advice for me? And I said, run. And they actually stayed together for a really long time. I think they ended their relationship maybe just a couple of years ago. So they were together for a really long time. But I'm man, 12-year-old Alicia was very insightful because it's really hard, right? Trying to blend the family and do all of the things, and I'm sure we'll get into it. But something that just makes me laugh, that I think oh yeah, I remember being run. She's got 3 kids. What are you doing?
Oh my gosh. No, I'm the oldest of 3 as well. My mom had 3 kids, got married, got divorced, got married again. And, the third marriage is, that was the longest one. She's still with my stepfather, but it's tough. That's a lot. That would be when I think about that, because I'm single now. So I would not marry somebody with 3 kids, not if they were at home, right? Wow. But that's a whole nother subject for a different day. As usual, I'm getting off tangent. So I want to start by talking about how, your story, your family dynamic. Now, I would just want to lay out for listeners that you met your husband. He had 2 kids already. Mm-hmm. Is that right? And then you guys had another 3rd child together. So you're a bio mom and you have the 2 stepkids. So I'd love for you to share your story. I want to point out, because you have your bio and stuff on your website, that there's a lot of similarities between your situation and mine, because you're your husband is 15 years older than you. My second ex-husband is 15 years younger than me, and he was a step parent to my son. So that's an interesting dynamic, that we had some of those similarities, but you're coming at it from the step parent point of view, and I was a bio mom in that dynamic. But anyway, so why don't you share with listeners your story and then how you came to specialize in this coaching?
Oh man. Okay. How much time do we have? No. So I met my husband when I was 26, and I, at that point in time, was just living my life. I was in my 20s. I traveled quite a bit, with girlfriends and all of the things. Right. And then I met my husband, and then we ended up dating. At first I was I'm not interested in dating. I've got my own life going on, and we lived in different states. So we ended up doing long distance for quite a while. So we dated for 2.5 years before I moved to Michigan. I was in Texas at the time, and I moved to Michigan, and it was difficult because I moved into their house. So the house that he had shared with his ex-wife. And that makes it really hard because I was coming in And first of all, like, I don't have any kids from a previous relationship. I had never been married before. And so from my perspective, I was like, I don't have any baggage. Like, I'm so good. Like, I don't have an ex. I don't have, or an ex-husband, I should say. Like, and I don't have any kids that I'm bringing, right? Like, this, like, mess that I'm walking into is not my fault. However, what I very quickly came to realize was I was actually bringing baggage. Like, I've got a childhood, I've got a past, and like all of those things that like come into it. But then factor in like moving into their house and what that dynamic is like, because I personally felt, to a degree, like I lived in a shrine to their previous relationship, because I was like, hey, can we change this? Can we change that? Can we change this? And my husband was like, no, because I don't want the kids to feel like put out, right? And hindsight's always 2020. I was really pissed at the time, but looking back, I can see clearly, like, oh, you know what? He was actually right. Like, we shouldn't have like moved me in and then all of a sudden like changed everything, because who is that going to fall on? It's going to fall on me.
Right.
And I do remember, I think it was the second iteration. No, yeah, we were painting the living room. Like, we were repainting like our whole main floor, but like specifically in the living room. And full disclosure, like, we all get along. Like, his ex-wife has remarried, and like the four of us, we all get along really well. There's no animosity, or it's really amicable. And so my stepson had gone to her and said, hey, Alicia's repainting the living room, right? Not like dad and Alicia are doing it. Alicia's doing it, even though it was a joint thing. And so she's like, that's fine. It's Alicia's house. She can do whatever she wants. So it had that support, but it was just like, oh my God, see, I just don't belong here. And so there was a lot of like outsider feelings. I felt like I was living someone else's life, and I was never going to be living my life, especially when we lived in this house and these kids. And at that time, we weren't going to have kids. And it is really interesting. I've talked about this before, but how the things that I did with my stepkids, or like the ways that I would talk to them, or, ways that I would try to guide them, parent them, I was a really evil stepmom for, but I literally, Maria, do the exact same thing with my daughter. And all of a sudden, like, I'm an amazing mom. That's interesting, because where were you like 10 years ago when I was doing the exact same thing, like boundaries and structure and routine and no means no and yes means yes and all of the things. So that was interesting. But like I said, I didn't realize at the time that I had my own baggage that I brought to the relationship. Like the lack of emotional maturity. Like, I grew up like as a divorced kid, or kid of a divorce, and my mom was a single mom. My dad wasn't in the picture, and she was not the most emotionally available. Let's start there. And so like conflict resolution was my way or the highway. So it's kind of how I operated, which, just so you know, if you're listening to this and that's your thing, like very type A, very like, let's just get things handled. That doesn't work very well in a blended family, especially if you're the step parent. So I was like, holy shit, this sucks. Dear Google, how do I get divorced? How do I get out of here? Literally, I felt like I was doing it daily. It was probably like every other day, but it was really hard. And being the type A, being the supercharger, like at work, I was amazing, perfect, like best employee ever. Like, get home and I felt like a complete shell of like that other person. Like, I felt like I had no voice. I felt like everything was on a microscope. I felt like I was like dancing on stage naked, and like everyone was watching me and judging me, right? It's just like everyone's watching. I was super vulnerable, like all of the things. And so admitting that I needed help was really, really hard. And then finally I was like, okay, I did not sign up to get divorced. I don't want to do this anymore. Let's go ahead and check our ego at the door and get some help. And then that's when I realized, like, okay, as much as I don't want to admit this, I absolutely was playing a part, probably the biggest part, and things not going well. So I had to get some coping strategies, and I had to learn that you can be kind and firm. You don't have to be a complete jerk and like to get your point across, right? And my husband used to say, you catch more bees with honey than you do vinegar. And I was like, I'll just burn the bridge. I don't care. Like, if I need to rebuild it later, I'll rebuild it. But right now we're just burning this. And so as much as that Alicia, like that previous version, was like, what, if I could just control Maria, if I could just control my stepkids, if I could just control my husband and control the situation, everything is going to be okay. And then I was like, okay, wait, hold on. That is not accurate at all. Like, I can't control you. I can't control
Hmm.
anyone else. I
That's
can't
right.
control situations or dynamics or outcomes. But what I needed was I needed to feel safe. And I didn't feel safe because I didn't have any control over anything, or I felt like I didn't have control over anything. But then once I figured out, like, okay, hey, dummy, what you really need is to figure out how to control yourself, get your own emotions in check, and figure out, like, what do you want? What are you working towards? Let's do that. People are going to have an opinion of you no matter what you do. If you, and this is an analogy that I use, I heard it, I don't even remember, I think from Jasmine Star, but it's such a great analogy. Like, you could be the perfect, most ripest perfect, most ripest peach in the world. Somebody still doesn't like peaches.
Yeah.
You could be the best kind of pizza. That's pretty universal, right? Like, everyone likes pizza. Wrong. Somebody doesn't like pizza. Somebody doesn't like sunshiny days. Like, you could be the best whatever, and somebody still doesn't like that. And once I got that through my thick skull, I was like, okay, people aren't going to like me. I'm okay with that now. But I was a people pleaser. Like, I used to be a
Yeah.
massive people pleaser, quit that,
Yeah.
met my husband, and kind of fell back into that people pleasing thing. And I was like, you did this, you did all this work to not do that, only
Well,
to fall back into it.
it's hard not to fall back in those patterns because it
Absolutely.
sounds like a lot of codependency, right? And
What?
like you're
No,
like you're
absolutely.
like you're like you're this idea that, well, if I just control everything and have to have a hand in everything, otherwise everything will go to hell. And that's clearly, that's not true and it's unhealthy, but those are a lot of rooted in childhood, especially
Yeah.
adults like us who had unstable childhoods.
Yep.
I think one of the ways that we deal with that as adults is the coping mechanisms are,
To feel safe.
control our environment,
Mhm.
to feel safe, control our environment. That's, I totally understand when things get out of whack and not in their place. I am like, I don't like this. When there's a change to the routine, I don't like this.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, but it's like you said, you cannot control other people. Like, people
Mhm.
ask us parenting coaches, how can I get my kid to do X? You can't. Not really. You cannot get your kid to do X. You can form this relationship and maybe have a conversation and maybe get them to understand the value of doing X, and then they will do it. Or you can maybe get to a place where they're more collaborative, but you
Yes.
can't just, there's no magic trick to get them to do X, right? At least
Correct.
not healthily. So anyway, yeah,
Yeah.
please
And I love
continue.
that you use the word collaborative because that's what I go for, right? Like, growing up, my parenting style, or like the parenting style that was used on me, was my way or the highway, right?
Hmm.
And that's super great. Like, you are parenting your kid out of fear, right? Fear of, like, getting spanked or being yelled at or the silent treatment or whatever it is, right? And I very quickly learned, like, when I was in the house, I remember telling my mom, like, you know what, she was telling me, like, how great of a mom she was. And I was like, yeah, you're such a great mom. Like, you've taught me how not to raise kids. That didn't go over well. It went over like a lead balloon. But it was true though. Like, I don't want my daughter or my stepkids to be scared of me. But if I'm going to yell at them, or if I'm going to hit them, or those kinds of things, like, that's exactly what's going to happen.
Hmm.
But here's something that I think, and it doesn't matter if you're a stepmom, adoptive mom, foster mom, biological mom, it doesn't matter what kind of mom you are. If you are taking care of anyone else, it could be another adult as well, you can't control them, right? They've got their own wants, needs, and desires, just like you do. And if I were
Hmm.
to come in and say, hey, Maria, guess what? We're going to do this, that, and that. And you're going to be like, what? I don't want to do that. And so sometimes I think that as adults, we get sucked into this warped reality of, because it's a kid, and I don't think people consciously think this, but, like, subconsciously, they're less than. Their opinions are
Absolutely.
less than.
Absolutely. Yeah.
They they don't get as much of a say as I do because I'm the adult. You do as I say, not as I do, right? Or because I
Right.
said so. Things that I try, like, really hard not to say, but I'm like, I'm looking for collaboration. Like, the end game is we need to do X. Whatever we need to do to get to X happening, that's what we're going to do. Or, like, bedtime is a fight for people, or, getting out the door. So, hey, what do you want to do first? Do you want to put your pajamas on first? Do you want to brush your teeth first? I don't care what order we do it. Honestly, like, we could do it in a different order every single night. The end
Hmm.
game is we're doing bedtime, or the end game is we're getting out the door, or the end game is we're eating dinner. Like, what do you want to do first? Or eating vegetables. Like, I want to eat vegetables. Okay. Do
Right.
you want to have 2 bites or 3?
Right.
You get to choose, because it's that power thing, right? Like, and I totally understand that, coming from an unstable childhood and wanting the control and wanting to feel safe. Girlfriend, I will give you all the control in the world, but we're still going to do X. And you're going to do it by making the decisions by,
Right.
are you doing this first or that first? Are you
Right.
doing it one time or two times? So just getting the collaboration piece, because it's so freaking important for
Yeah.
everyone to have some sort of say, or everyone to feel like they've got buy-in, especially on their own life.
Absolutely. And it's like I'm always saying on this channel, that if kids are not allowed to flex those decision making muscles at home, they don't magically learn to do that as adults. They just don't magically do it. They need to
Yes.
practice. They need to practice it at home with the parents, right? And it is, it's tempting to say, I'm the parent, that's it, blah. And there are times you have to be like, you have to say, you know what, this has been discussed. I'm
Hmm.
not arguing anymore. There are times you have to cut that off.
Hmm.
But I firmly believe, like, let the kids be heard, even if you cannot do what they want to do or honor their wishes at that moment. At least let them be heard. And 90% of the time, they just want to be heard, and they'll be
Hmm.
more collaborative if you just sit there and listen to them, right, to their
Hmm.
complaints or whatever it is. And I find that with teenagers too, because the it's like when they express their autonomy, even in a assertive, borderline aggressive way, it may be about an issue that you consider really unimportant, but that's the issue is not what has value. The act of protecting their autonomy is what has value for them in that moment,
Yeah.
right? So I think if you can get there and understand that, especially as kids become adolescents and teens,
Hmm.
and asserting themselves is so important developmentally. If you can understand that, yes, they're making a big deal about, in your mind they're making a big deal about something insignificant, but to them the significance is the act of protecting their autonomy. It's not what they're eating for dinner or a snack, it's something else. But in the moment it's tough, like it's tough not to take personally. But it's like I always tell parents, it's really not about you at the end of the day, it's about their development. So yeah,
Yeah,
all things to keep
absolutely.
in mind.
So my stepkids are 24 and 21 at the time of this recording, and my daughter is about to be 6. So she's basically 6. Let's just say that. And so I've seen all ages of parenting. And my stepkids were 8 and 11 when I met them. And so to go from, like, you had kind of talked about, like, okay, so I'll use like a younger kid. Like, they lose their mind because their ice cream falls off their ice cream cone, right? Like, that's a big deal to them. Listen, I would love for my biggest worry or my biggest stressor to be my ice cream just fell off of my ice cream cone, right? It would be amazing. But all I have to do is sit there and be present for that. Because if you're not listening to the small things, your kids are learning that you're not a safe person, and you're not going to listen to the big things, and they'll
Right.
go elsewhere to get that validation, or they'll go somewhere else to use their or flex their decision making muscle, like you were talking about. And so even as teenagers, I think a lot of times what they really want is the connection, but not so much in the way that we think we want the connection. And like you had said, it's really hard not to take it personally, because
Mm-hmm.
as a teen, they naturally are starting to pull away. And then as the step parent, if you come in like around that time, or even if like a couple years before, like I said, my stepkids were 8 and 11 when I met them. But as a teenager, when they naturally start to pull away, you're like, well, what the hell did you wrong? They hate me. It's because I'm the stepmom. It's because I'm the stepdad. It's because I'm whatever.
Right.
It has nothing to do with you at all.
Right.
Just the fact that developmentally, this is appropriate. They are trying to flex their autonomy. They're trying to figure out like their own individuality. Like, who am I with or without you guys? Like, what can I get away with? What can I not get away with? But also, I'm kind of scared because I'm staring down the barrel of like when I'm supposed to be launching off into my own. And, maybe I go to college, or
And
maybe
can
I
I
get a
do
boyfriend.
this? Right. A lot
Right.
of
Yeah. And so
uncertainty.
there's
Yeah.
all of these emotions. And the hardest thing to do is like be present there, I think, especially for parents in today's world. One, if not both parents work. And honestly, if you can just tell me in 5 seconds, like, what's wrong, I can just fix it. That's not how you need to fix it. What you need to do to fix it is just to sit there and connect with them. Validation goes a long way. You don't have to agree with what they're saying. They could
Right.
be upset, and that sucks. That really sucks that you had a hard day at practice, or whatever it is that happens, some validation. And I think sometimes we forget that if we talk to our kids the way that we would want somebody to talk to us, we would get so much further along in the relationship. and they just open up. I remember we talked about this with my stepson, and he was on my podcast too. It's episode 25 if you are like interested in listening to like us talk, but it's aliciakrasko.com/25 and you can hear it there. But he said, one time we were talking about parenting, because I would always check in with him. I would say regularly, like every few months, like, hey, how am I doing as a stepmom? Like, what do you like? What do you not like? You want something scary? That's what you should do. Like, ask your kids, how am I doing as a parent? Like, what am I doing well? What am I not doing well? And so I had said to him, like, what's going well? What's not going well? And he was like, I think we're great, whatever. And so I'm like, okay, tell me something that I've done that has like scared you or has made you been like, oh God. And he's like, okay, I'm going to tell you the scariest words you ever said to me. And I'm thinking like, oh my God, what have I said to him? Like what, like all of the things are going through my head. Like what could it possibly be? And he said, you said, I'll wait. And I knew exactly what he was talking about. And I was like, that was scary. And he said, yeah, because you asked me an open-ended question. He was 15 at the time. And you said, and you could tell I was nervous because I was looking at the clock, and you said, oh, wait, we got nowhere to be. But we were talking about like drinking, we were talking about girls, we were talking about sex, like all of the things. And he's like, that was scary because he's like, I knew you would sit there and just wait. Like you won't fill in the silence. You won't, make in answers for me. Absolutely not. Like I'm asking you a question because I want the answer, and not necessarily like in a jerk way, but like, hey Maria, I'm just trying to connect with you. Like I'm going to ask you a question.
Right.
Answer it. And he was like, yeah, I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm so scared. Like, no. And he goes, but it set our relationship up for success because that's how it is now. Like he'll ask me questions, I'll answer them. I'll ask him questions and he'll answer them. And if he doesn't want to, like, he'll just be like, I don't want to answer it. Cool. But we are really close. And so that doesn't typically happen. Like typically I get like all of the inside details, and my husband's like, okay, I feel like you know everything because he just tells you everything. But I've set our relationship up for that dynamic of like, tell me everything. And I say that to my coaching clients too, or like stepmoms that I talk to, like, tell me everything. Like, I want you to know that this is a safe place. Like, I might not agree with what you said or did, but I'm happy to listen to you. And I want you to feel like you always have somebody to come to and talk to. Right. You're never alone.
It's important. That's important. How, was it helpful because you're so young, like you weren't that, like we're not that much older than your stepkids. I mean, yes, but not, because you're so much younger than their dad. So how, I imagine that probably was a positive thing, because maybe that at least, I'm guessing maybe at least at the beginning, that you were able to kind of from hoping you were able to kind of form a friendship with them and then have it grow from there into more of a parent type relationship, right? But I imagine that, and being youthful, energetic helps too, because kids at that age, 8, 11, like play is a great way to bond with them, right?
Yes.
Games, physical activity, running around, and if you're younger, clearly you can be able to do that much more.
Yeah, I would say yes. It has helped, and I wouldn't say that I've ever been in a parenting role, if you will. And like Alicia from 10 years ago would be like, what do you mean? Like, we're not even a parent. No, I would say I was more of like the cool cousin or like the fun aunt or like the friendship, like the mentor, like somebody that they could just like come to. Being younger has absolutely worked in my favor. So I'm like halfway in between like my stepdaughter and my husband. And then I'm closer to my husband than I am my stepson. But it has absolutely helped because I have more of a beat on like what's going on, like in their generation, right? Like how social media works, crazily enough, how social media works, like what the trends are, how to talk to them, how to get through to them, where, my husband isn't, I would say, not as likely to be, he doesn't do social media. So he doesn't like have any clue like what's going on, where I do, or I'm like, hey, have you seen this or whatever? And it has helped because as far as like things to do, we're a pretty active family and we like to travel. We like to do things. And so the kids also like those things. And if I was kind of more, I don't know, like stick in the mud, I guess, if you will, or
Yeah.
not like super adventurous, it wouldn't work as well.
Right.
But yeah, it's totally worked to like be younger, which sounds
Yeah.
crazy.
No, but I believe that because for all the reasons you just said, you're like closer to the generation, more plugged in with all the social media stuff. I was 33 when I had my son, so I was older. There was more of an age difference there, but like, I've talked a lot about on this channel that I was a big gamer when I was younger. And when my son started a game when he was in elementary school, like with the Wii and stuff like that, because he's an only child, I would game with him. And that started like years of us gaming together. And we went from that to like Roblox, to Minecraft, to Fortnite, to like other things. And it was cool because it was bonding. It was fun. I had a good time. I got to be a kid again. And also, I tell parents, I got a bird's eye view of what was happening. I was
Exactly.
right in the middle of all the conversations and the game chat and the people being pinged, and I got a bird's eye view, like front row seat on like the whole dynamic. So it gave me a really good understanding of like, okay, this is completely different from when I was gaming as a kid because it's all online.
Yeah.
There's issues with your communication with strangers. So we had frank conversations, like you were saying, frank conversations about sex and all these things and drinking. We had frank conversations about the dangers of contacting, having contact with people online. And not from a place of judgment, just from a place of this is how it is, and we have to have some limits, and you cannot friend people that you don't know in real life, and blah blah blah. So, or who's this person? Do you know this person you were talking to? But I think he was more receptive to me because I was in there doing it with him, and I never ever talked badly about him liking gaming. I never
Hmm.
ever said this is a waste of time. Like I hear a lot of parents say that.
Hmm.
And I'm like, that's fine. You can think that, yes, there's more productive things you could do with your time. Absolutely, clearly, right? But
Hmm.
I would never badmouthed it to him. So he felt, because he felt more accepted, he didn't feel judged. We were able to have a really collaborative relationship, and I was able to set some limits on that, right? With his buy-in.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting. Yeah.
And I'm not a gamer, but I know that that's something that, so like the games that you have mentioned, I'm like, oh yeah, I know them. Like my stepson has played
Yeah.
them too. Like
Yeah.
it's not something that I'm interested in. Like I don't do it, but we had a Wii, like we would play that. But then, we upgraded systems and he was into like other games like Call of Duty and stuff like that as
Right.
well. Fortnite, he was always a Christmas tree, which like, oh my gosh, it just makes me like, I love it.
The
But
Christmas
I
tree,
would,
I love
yeah, I
Fortnite.
love it. And like I would come and like watch and he'd be like, can you make it dance or like light up? And you do all the little things. But
Yeah,
I would
yeah, that's
come and
cool.
like watch him. So I knew not from like a, let me see what you're doing. I'm trying
Right.
to like be in your thing, but like, let me see how this game works.
Like
I don't even know what.
curiosity. Like I'm
Yeah, for
interested
sure.
in this. I'm interested in this. Yeah.
And it's a bonding thing. Like you are
Yeah.
interested in it. This is something that's important to you. Let me find out about your stuff. And I could hear like his buddies that like he knew like on like in real life, like on the headset. And, I'd be like, oh, tell so and so I said hi or whatever. And, they would play. And I have seen him like grow up through like gaming things. And like now as an adult, he's been like, oh yeah, like I definitely shouldn't have done this, that, or whatever. Like when I was 8 or 9 but like I had no idea. And I think if you're
Right.
a parent listening to this and you are like, oh, gaming is such a waste of time. First of all, like I hear you, absolutely can understand where you're coming from. But think about like your hobbies or whatever you like to do. Like maybe you like to do puzzles, maybe you like to cross stitch, maybe you like to knit, maybe you like to read, whatever it is. That's their hobby, right? Like they are
Right.
a separate entity from you. They've got their own wants, needs, and desires. So you have to hold space for that. And if you're like, I don't even know what it's about, like go and spend some time. Those were not the most exciting moments of my life when I was like, let me see your gaming and tell me all about it, right? But it gave us something to talk about, like, oh, what are you
Right.
guys building, or what, things did you guys do today, or whatever. And it's just connecting with that kid outside of their parent, but also outside of like a parent child relationship, and
Hmm.
just on the level of like, let me see you for you as a
Exactly.
person, and
Right.
getting to know you outside of this dynamic.
Right. That's awesome. I love it. I wanted to ask you too before I forget, because you mentioned when you moved in, and clearly, your husband and the two stepkids had like their traditions and their kind of routine and ways of doing things, right? And and you mentioned that. it was important for them to have the stability of continuing a lot of those traditions and ways of doing
Mhm.
things. So, how did you compromise, and how did you manage providing them that stability and also like feeling heard, but also making sure you were heard yourself? So you had some kind of say, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
Like, how did
Yeah, it
you,
makes perfect sense.
how are you able to do that effectively while building the relationship?
I
Like,
think this is a
especially at the
great
beginning, especially like near the beginning when it's toughest, right?
Yeah, this is a really great question. It's also something that I did not handle well at all. Like full disclosure, I did not handle it well. But something that worked in my favor that isn't great is that I didn't really have any traditions from like
Hmm.
when I was younger, right? Like my
Yeah.
parents were divorced. My mom was a single mom, like worked all the time. So I didn't have like birthday traditions. Like we've been talking a lot about birthdays in my house. And so like, did you have birthday parties growing up? I didn't. And we didn't have birthday parties. Like we didn't have Christmas, like put up a tree and like decorate it all one night and all of the things. Like we went to my grandparents' house for like Christmas Eve. So I didn't really have all of these like ingrained traditions in me that I needed to like bring into this family and like set my stake in the ground
Hmm.
and like this is what we're doing. So for me it was on the one, it was kind of like a catch 22. On the one hand, it was really nice that they had all of these traditions because they had something, right?
Right.
So that's the nice
Right.
part. The not so nice part is that they had these traditions that were set before me and now we've just swapped out the wife
Right.
and now I'm expected to do them, right?
Right.
So back to the whole, like I feel like I'm living in a shrine to a previous relationship.
Right.
And so I remember like breaking down and just probably rage screaming at my husband, but I do remember crying and being like, I hate this. And now, full disclosure, Christmas is my favorite season. It's not even like a day, like the whole season. Like, I love to decorate for it. I like the trees. I like the lights. I like the sparklers. I like all of the things, right? And I love to give gifts. And it's just like my jam, like the whole thing. And so I really struggled with it because I had a really hard time now at Christmas because here's this tree, here's this tradition that they've got, here are these ornaments
Yeah.
that they've got, and here's why they've got them, or like baby's first ornaments and all of the things. And I'm like, I hate this. I hate everything about it. And then I'm like, what is happening? Like, how is this my life? Like, the one thing that I loved more than anything is now something that I like absolutely can't stand. So back to, I just had a breakdown and was like, here's the deal. I don't like this. And here's why. First of all, like, I don't like the decor. Like, these ornaments are not my choice. I know where they came from. And like why they were bought. They were
Hmm.
part of like a previous part in like their life, like a specific part. And I don't like any of it. And none of these ornaments mean anything to me. I didn't even bring Christmas ornaments, like, but like none of these ornaments mean anything to me. Like, I'm having a really hard time. I feel like a super outsider on like a time that like I really enjoy, but I don't even enjoy it anymore. So here's a solution that I think that we should do. And by I think that we should do, it means we are doing. Um, but here's what I think. On our main floor, we should have a family tree. That is one that we can put the ornaments on, whatever. But can we get rid of those ones and like just do these other ones? And so we did that. But like the main tree on the main floor, like we would all decorate. Like one day, like the four
Hmm.
of us would decorate it.
Right.
And then in the basement, which like sounds crazy, but like in the basement, like where no one's ever going to see it, which is like kind of a good thing and a bad thing. A good thing because then it's special and it's ours. Bad because it's like it feels like it's hidden, so to speak.
Yeah.
Um, is a Mr. and Mrs. tree, and this is just ours, and only we decorate it. Now, my stepson saw that tree the most because that's where the gaming system is, right? So
Yeah.
he would be down there.
Checks out.
Yeah, but we would watch movies down there. But like that tree was ours. And what we did was the first year we had to go and like get filler ornaments because we didn't have anything, but we collect ornaments from like wherever we've been. So our family tree has ornaments from like wherever we've been with the kids and like other ornaments too. But our basement, like Mr. and Mrs. tree,
Hmm.
has ornaments from wherever we've been. The filler trees we've started to like take, or filler ornaments we started to take out and put up on the family tree, like when we've started to like retire some of the ornaments. But I'm like, I can't believe that we're putting some of these filler ornaments that were for our tree, like on the family tree. But you know what, Maria? Honestly, like time in this role is so good because it gives you so much perspective. Things like that used to make me absolutely crazy.
Hmm.
And now it doesn't. And
Hmm.
then the year before my daughter was born, so like that Christmas I was pregnant, And I remember we would do like a family Christmas and like open all the gifts. And then we have
Mhm.
like our own like Mr. and Mrs. Nate and we open our gifts like to each other. And that night we were doing it, but I was like, like sobbing, like
Aw.
pregnancy hormones. But he was like, what is wrong with you? The night was great. It was perfect. But he was like, what is wrong with you? I'm like, this is going to be the last time I'm ever going to have Christmas with just you. And he was like, just you. He didn't say this, but this is what I heard. And it was really good for me. But he was like, you have hormones raging through your body. You're okay. Like, it's okay. Christmas isn't ruined. Like, you're pregnant. It's okay. Like, we're gonna be okay. Like, we can still do this. And we still do. And I think to a degree, maybe there was part of him that thought, like, oh, once we have our kid, maybe this won't be that big of a deal. But to me, it's very important to have like our relationship as a couple, just the two of us, also with our relationship with the kids. But our
Yeah,
relationship is very important to me. And so I want to
absolutely.
maintain
Yeah.
these things that we do together, just us. And he was
Yeah.
like, oh, okay. But yeah, his family has like a bunch of like traditions that they do, like Christmas and birthdays and stuff. And so I've just like incorporated them in and it's not a big deal anymore, but it really bothered me like at the very beginning.
Yeah, it's good that you got to the place where you could incorporate them and feel better about it, because that's it's
Yeah.
got to be tough, especially like you were young coming into the relationship. Like mid-20s is young. Like I was nowhere near ready to be married in my mid-20s. I
Right?
was like going out every night and having a good time. But so like it's a lot to ask of somebody at that stage in life. I think. I mean, you were going into it like that was your choice. Clearly, it's not like it was forced upon you, but still, it's a lot to handle. So I think I mean, it's awesome that you found a way to do that. As an aside, I absolutely love the idea of having a Christmas tree on every floor of the house.
Oh my gosh. I
I love it.
literally
I
like,
actually love that. I was like, that's a great idea. When you were saying
yeah.
that, I was like, that's a great idea. Because,
Yeah.
like, we have ours upstairs to have a beautiful picture window. So, of course, that's
Hmm.
where I put it, right? But I'm
Hmm.
thinking, oh, but we spend so much time downstairs gaming and watching TV and reading, and that's where I paint and stuff. I'm like, oh, like, we should have one downstairs too, so that when we're downstairs doing our stuff, we can also enjoy it. I'm like, that's
Yeah.
brilliant.
Yeah,
I'm
you
gonna do
totally
that for
could.
next time.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love it because we have enough ornaments too for it. But yeah, I love that. That's very cool. That's very cool. Yeah, it's just tough because like you absolutely should have the step parent should absolutely have a say. You should not be just you should not be expected to just accept everything without having any input. On the other hand, the stability is super important for the kids, and it sounds like you had a good relationship with their bio mom,
Mhm.
and that's awesome because when that's not the case, that's adds another level of challenge, obviously. And to your point about not feeling like the not seeing yourself in that parenting role, I guess it's just because they your stepkids had two involved parents
Mhm.
already. That's another thing we haven't mentioned yet in detail, but I think when the step parent comes in and there's already two biological parents who are heavily involved, who there's a co-parenting situation, now from the kid's point of view, you have a third parent telling you what to do. And that's not, you know, it's not really conducive to helping them through the transition. I think
Mhm.
your comparison and talking about it as a friend or the cool aunt, I love that
Mhm.
because you could. It's not that you don't have value or don't have say, but the role is a little bit different. It's like you're not in the role of the parent. This is I have the last word because I'm the parent. It's more of a I don't want to say equal because it's not exactly an equal
Mhm.
relationship, but it takes there's a propensity for it to take a little bit of the pressure off the step parent and just kind of enjoy getting to know the kids, right? I'm not saying that's easy, but I like that. I like how you talk about that because it's
Yeah.
more about kind of building that relationship with them. And as the first time you and I talked, um, that you mentioned this, if when you build a relationship with the stepkids, then it becomes your relationship with them becomes more collaborative, and they're more
Yeah.
cooperative and collaborative with you because of the nature of the
Absolutely.
relationship, and because they feel heard by you, not because you're
Mhm.
telling them what to do all the time.
Yeah. Like I said earlier, like building that connection with them, like outside of their parent, like your partner, or
Right.
building like a connection with them outside of like a parent child relationship or whatever that looks like. And here's something that I would say to my stepkids, like, I'm not your mom and I'm not your dad. I'm
Yeah.
Alicia, right? Like, I'm the only one that gets to be Alicia. I'm the only one that gets to be the stepmom. Like, I'm here, I'm on your team. We can fix it. It might be messy, but we can fix it, right? but having that relationship with them outside of whatever dynamic is playing out in the house is so important because yeah, you have more collaboration. There is a lot more cooperation. Like they understand that you see them as a person and not just like this kid that you can puppet around, right? Which I don't necessarily agree with. But something that I think that step parents, I absolutely got this wrong, stepmoms too, like connection over correction. Like you can't come in guns blazing. We're changing this house now. We're changing all these traditions. We're changing all of these things. But these people are like, who the hell are you? Like, absolutely not, right? And I'm the kind of person that if you were to come in and be like, we're completely flipping the switch on all of these things, I'd be like, sounds great. Go ahead and try. Watch me not do those things because I don't have a say. Like you're just coming in and you're going to
Right.
dictate whatever it is. Like
Right.
I'm not going to be like in your face about it, but like I'm not participating. And so I try to like put myself in their perspective. Like if I were to come in and like do all of these things, what does that look like? What message am I trying to send? Right. But I think that new stepmoms where they really struggle or step parents too is just like, what is my role? What
Right.
like what am I supposed to do? Right. Because from the outside looking in, as a step parent, theoretically speaking, you have all of the responsibilities, but none of the authority, right? So, like you said, it's not really equal, like what
Right.
you can or can't do, right? Like
Right.
you can show up, you can be super positive, you can be supportive, you can like do all of the things for them, buy them all the things, like love on them as much as you want. Don't ever be frustrated. Don't ever show that you're angry. Don't show that you're sad. Don't show that it's hard. Please, for the love of God, don't ever try to correct them because remember, they're not your kids. And I think that so many step parents get caught up in that and try to define their role really early on, where it's like, okay,
Right.
this is something that needs to be fluid because it's going to change. Once you figure out like this works,
Absolutely.
something's going to happen. You're going to be in a new stage of parenting, right? And so what worked for like a young kid parenting wise or guiding wise doesn't work for a teenager. But then guess what? Whatever works for those two stages doesn't work for adulthood. It doesn't work for whatever it is. So as much as like my type A, let's plan everything out hates this, like I had to learn to like take a step back and not be asking, when does the flow start? When does it end? When are
Yeah.
we getting on? When are we getting off? Right? Like I had to learn to just like let that be fluid as much as it made me a crazy person. But I also had to learn I can't go to my husband about all of these things because he doesn't get it. He's not a step parent. He doesn't understand.
Right.
And so I would be like, oh, I'm so frustrated about X, Y, and Z. And he'd be like, it's not a big deal. Thanks. That's really supportive. If I could just let that go, my friend, I would. Obviously, I can't. So that's why I'm here telling you. But I didn't understand that he was too close to that
Yeah.
dynamic, right? Like we're both
Yeah.
emotionally invested in
Right.
different arenas, though, and like different
Right.
depths. And so it was when I got outside support that I was like, he doesn't get it because he's not a step parent and
Right.
he doesn't understand. And the kids, of course, unconditionally love him, where I'm conditional. Like, I don't have to like
Yeah.
you, I don't have to
Right.
listen to you. And it's not, and
Yeah.
here's something that I say to stepmoms that I coach because it's so easy to take things personally. Like they hate me because I'm a stepmom. They hate me because I'm not their real mom. First of all, like I don't want to be your real mom. Like you've got a real mom. But secondly, like they don't hate me. It's what I represent. And it's not even that they necessarily hate me. Like you and I could switch positions. Like you could be married to my husband and I could be the mom to your kid. And like my stepkids are going to treat you how they treat me. I could switch places with anyone in the world and I'm going to be treated they're going to be treated the exact same way. Why? Because they're the step parent. It's not because of me, Alicia, as a person.
Right.
It's because of the role that I'm in. It's because of what I represent.
Right.
Okay. Once I got that through my thick head, I was like, okay, I can take a deep breath and be like, I need to check my ego. It's not about me. It has nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
It's about how they're experiencing whatever situation.
Right. And I think it's important to keep in mind that the kids in this situation go through a bunch of uncertainty, upheaval, chaos. Some kids weather it much better than other. I don't want to say better. Some kids have a more challenging time of it. As I've talked about a lot on this channel, I was the only introvert growing up in a house full of extroverts. I was always treated as odd, different, selfish because I wanted a lot of alone time, all those things. And And the dealing with all the upheavals of our home life was, I'm not saying that my siblings did not have a tough time. We all did. It was very difficult for me because you didn't know what's coming next. You have no control over what's going on. Caused me to engage in injurious behaviors, less than healthy behaviors, because I wanted to have some control over my existence, my situation, right? So stepkids in this situation, they have no say in what's happening, and that to them is very distressing, and that could result in what we consider, so some people call selfish behaviors, or acting out, or oppositional behaviors, when it's really just their way of trying to have some control over this situation, or some say, or some attention. Because there's
Mhm.
another fear, is that, well, the step parent is now going to take attention away from, gonna result in my bio parent giving me less attention. They're going to take
Mhm.
my bio parent's attention, and I'm going to have less attention, right? So that's another consideration. And they don't know how to articulate all this yet. They don't have the sophistication to sit down and articulate this like we're talking about it now. That's
Mhm.
why I was telling you at the beginning, I think it's a parent's responsibility to recognize what's going on and address it, right?
If
So
you're
yeah, that's
emotionally
tough.
mature enough to do that, right?
That's
If
the
you've got the
that's the
tools
thing.
yourself.
You have to do the work and get the detachment. And like you said, Alicia, like not learn not to take it personally. Would you mind sharing what you talked to me about the first time we talked, which is about like your session with a family therapist and them telling you to like get the buy-in from the kids?
Yeah.
Because that was really
So
eye-opening. I think that'd be really
I went
eye-opening for
against
people.
everything that I wanted to do. So what Maria's referencing is I had been talking to her about how, as a new stepmom, I was really struggling with, like, okay, sometimes the kids are allowed to do things, sometimes they're not allowed to do things, sometimes they get in trouble for things, sometimes they don't get in trouble for things, sometimes they clean up after themselves, sometimes they don't. And so I'm like, it's confusing for me as the adult. Like, I don't understand like what is going on. Again, that comes back to like my type A, like my structure, like routine, like everything's got its place and everything in its place, right? And what is happening. And so I had mentioned this to like counsel, like our marriage counselor, because like I said at the beginning of our marriage, I was like, dear Google, how do we get divorced? And so I was like, we need help because this shit sucks. And like I hate it. And I don't, and I love my husband like crazy about it. But like I, outside of like being a stepmom, like our relationship was about as perfect as it could be. And then
Right.
you add in like all of the blended family situations, and it's just like, whoa, what is, I had no idea what was coming. So back to house expectations. So she's like, oh, what you guys probably should set up are house expectations. And as soon as she said it, I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. I checked out. I was not listening. I was like, oh yeah, we need one for this and this. And you're right. And I'm like, Rolodexing, like all of these things, like 300 instantaneously that we need expectations on. And she was like, Alicia, she knew me. She was a stepmom. So she was like, girlfriend, come back. Like, where did you go? I know that you are setting up expectation after expectation after expectation. I'm going to tell you that's not helpful. Less is more. And you can't just come in, or both of you can't just come in and be like, okay, we're changing everything. This is what we're going to do now. What you guys need to do when it comes to these house expectations is the two of you need to sit down and say, okay, this is how we would kind of like our house to be ran. Like you can do it on your own, you do it on your own, and then you guys meet up, whatever. And then you go to the kids and have a family meeting. And I was like, I'm out. I'm not doing it. Like, no way. Like, I'm out. Like, count me out. I'm already going to puke just thinking about it. Like I'm sweating profusely, like just thinking about it. Right. Like I was struggling. Like I had a really hard time. I was really struggling because I didn't have any control over the situation. I couldn't dictate anything. Right. And like, I'm so good at running my life. Let me run yours. I
Mm-hmm.
couldn't do that. So
If you
my
would
husband
just
and I,
listen to me and did everything I told you to do, your life would be so much easier.
much easier, right?
I
You guys
know,
are
I
so
know.
great.
From one type A to another, believe me, I
Yeah, it's so great. And
understand.
remember, like I didn't come with any baggage. Like I was so
Yeah.
good.
Oh,
Like
sure,
so good.
sure.
So good. Anyway, so then so I come up with my list of what I think, and then my husband comes up with his list, and so then we like hammer it out, and then we set up this family meeting, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I am going to puke, but I'm like, wait, why are we going to ask them? Like we're the parents, right? So how I was parented was like my way or the highway, and so at
Hmm.
this point, like I'm still kind of thought process like that. I like the idea of like getting buy-in from them, but what if it's not what I want them to say? Well, then what am I going to do? Right. So I'm like, like A through Z of like what could possibly go wrong. And she's like, think about it. Like if somebody were to change something for you and be like, hey, Alicia, we're going to make these changes. What do you think about this in your like own personal life? Wouldn't you want some sort of buy-in? Like, wouldn't you want to have some sort of say? I'm like, well, yeah, it's my freaking life. And she was like, okay. So then, we sit down with the kids and like, here is the outline of what we've got, but we left things open-ended. Okay. So when do you think your curfew should be? What do you think about this? What do you think about that? Because they've got to say, they're more apt to follow whatever it is that we've set up. And just to clarify, these expectations weren't just for the kids. It was for all of us. Right. And a really great piece of advice that our marriage counselor said was, less is more. Less is more. And if you set up a bunch of them, then you have to enforce all of these. And I was like, I'm like, set up a bunch of them. That sounds great.
I'm laughing because I've been there. Just go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm laughing because I've been there. I'm like, oh man, I'm right? Walked this path before.
Totally. So we came up with, I think it was like 7 of them. Yeah. And what I don't recommend is what I absolutely did was like memorize them. Right. And so I'm like, as I see that they're like not being followed or they're being, gone against, I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. And so I have very different relationships with my stepkids. Like they're very different people. I have very different relationships. So I tailor my big personality to both of them. So with my stepson, like I just joke with him a lot, but I would always say to him, like in this crazy voice, I'd be like, number 4 says, I would always do it like in a joking way. And he'd be like, oh my God, get out of here. And then like, if I was doing it, then he would come back and say to me, number 3 says, and then I'm like, right. But it's
humor goes a long way. Let me tell you, absolutely. It goes a long way. Oh my gosh.
Absolutely. And I have a face that if I'm not smiling and I just say something to you very direct, you're like, man, what a bitch. But I have to like be mindful of like what I'm saying. And I have to make sure that this face matches what's coming out of my mouth. Right. And this sounds really corny, but I actually practice like what I'm going to say in front of a mirror. Like go record it and be like, okay, I already know. I don't do it anymore because I'm like good at it now. But in the beginning, I'm like, this face is not matching what's coming out of my mouth.
That's a good idea.
Like, the tonality, my facial expressions, because when I have something to say or there's a problem that needs to be handled, like I am like, let's just handle it right now. And that face comes on and that face isn't the kindest face. And so what's coming across my face is, this is stupid. Like, why are we here? First of all, why did you do this? And like, I can't even believe I'm having this conversation with you. And then I'm like, okay, that is not what I'm trying to like project. Like, let's get that in check. Yeah. And so I say that to stepmoms that I coach too, or like even in the community, I've got office hours where they can come on and like on Zoom and like ask me questions. And I'm like, I know this sounds really corny. This is the one thing that everyone skips because it sounds so dumb. But go practice what you're going to say in front of a mirror. You don't have to record it, but like go practice what you're going to say in front of a mirror and make sure that this matches what's coming out and check your tonality. And if you want, like next week on office hours, like come back and we can practice and I'll sit and give you actual feedback on like what I'm hearing as opposed to what I'm seeing. And I think that they're like, oh my gosh. But then when they do practice, they're like, oh my gosh, this totally makes a difference. And I'm like, yeah, because when that situation comes up, you know that it's going to come up because everything is cyclical, right? Like it's just going to keep coming up until you handle that situation. You'll just instantly say it because you play like you practice. So if you don't practice anything, like you're just going to say whatever. Case in point, that was me. 100% that was me. But I'm like, you just have to practice what you're going to say. And then when that fight or flight situation happens, because that's what it feels like, you're just going to spit out whatever it is that you've practiced. So practice what you're going to say. But having buy-in from the kids was like so important to like go back to that was so important because it really alleviated a lot of the stress for me, but also for them. Like I said, I was the adult in the situation. I was so confused. And that was the angle that I worked. I'm like, I'm the adult. I'm confused on what is supposed to be happening. I can only imagine because I'm over the age of 25 and my prefrontal cortex supposedly is completely developed. They are under the age of 25, under the age of 18 nonetheless. And like, I can only imagine how confusing it is for them. So let's just level the playing field, put everyone out like in the open. Here's what the expectations are. It's clear as day and everyone knows where they stand. And that I think is so good. And it's for everyone. That could work. It works at work. It works in your personal relationships. It works in your house. It works like in
Hmm.
your marriage, like all of the things. I'm all about like, okay, if we're going to be friends, I'm not going to say this, but like, if we're going to be friends, this is what I expect. If we're going to be friends, what do you expect from me? Like, you don't have to have a conversation like that, but you can kind of gauge what
Hmm.
that looks like and how that friendship is going to work. Or I'm sure, you have friends that you're like, I know if I reach out to this person, they are probably not going to respond, or, they may or may not be able to, but if I reach out to this person, they're always going to show up.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I'm the friend that takes a long time to respond because introvert. So I'm like I am so militant about guarding my peace. I'm like I don't like texting, so I will check texts when I feel ready to respond. And if I don't respond, I had a friend one time who was like, "Yeah, I finally realized you don't get back to me not because you're ignoring me, but because you're an introvert." I said, "That's exactly right."
That's hilarious.
So it's funny. But can you tell listeners about the community you have, and then I want to make sure we go over that because that's something that is very valuable to other step parents because a lot of parents in general they're like are operating in a vacuum without feedback and not sure if they're doing the right job, and there's so much judgment on parents and especially on step parents from all sides. You ask 10 different people 10 different things, I'll have 10 different opinions about how you should deal with your kids in such and such a situation, and it's overwhelming. So the community is so important to have other people going through similar experiences. So if you could tell us about the community, also where viewers can find you and your other services, how to book a discovery call with you, things like that.
All right, that's a great question. Thank you. So the Stepmom Side community is specifically for stepmoms, and I created it's off social media, and there's a reason for that because I don't want you to be concerned about, what if my partner sees this? What if my stepkids see this? What if the
Mm-hmm.
ex sees this? What if my in-laws see this? What if somebody sees that I'm struggling, right? And I had a stepmom say to me, I went and liked some other post and somebody got it back to my husband's ex. And then she reached out and was like, hey, why is so and so, why did your wife like this? And she was like, what? And like, that doesn't happen inside the
Crazy.
community because it's only for stepmoms. It is a paid community. So if you go to aliciakrasko.com/community, it's there. So in there's a private forum where you can get advice. I'm in there daily, like checking in, like reading posts, like post. I also post in there too, like when things are going sideways, but there's other stepmoms in there too. And like the advice, like I love Maria, the growth that I have seen with stepmoms, like from where they started to where they are now inside the community. I'm like, you guys, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I love it. But just getting to see the advice or the different perspectives, right? Because I might have one perspective on what they should do, but somebody else is going to come with a different perspective, which I think that's great, especially as a stepmom. Like, here's what I would do, but then maybe you would do something different. And you can kind of take snippets from everyone's response and apply them. So
Mm-hmm.
there's a private forum where you can get advice from like me, other stepmoms. There are a few courses in there. I have mindset moments in there where there's small video or short videos or like 5 to 15 minutes. I think 20 minutes is maybe the longest, but that's pushing it. But just small, short, bite-sized videos that you can watch about different perspective shifts that you can get on like, oh my gosh, like one of them is like you overreacted with how you were dealing with your stepkid. Now what? I'm trying to like now that I'm on the spot, I'm like, oh my gosh, but there's like 15 of them in there. And it's just a place where you can go as a stepmom and not have the judgment of
Mm-hmm.
everyone else. Cause like you said, like there's judgment from yourself of like what you should be doing, or I could be doing that, or I would be doing that. But there's the judgment from your parents,
Mm-hmm.
your partner, their parents, the stepkids, society, like
Mm-hmm.
that judgment is so massive. But then also I have office hours. So I referenced that, but I hold them on Wednesdays and you can come in, it's on Zoom. You get to ask me questions in real time, kind of face to face like this, like, hey, this is the latest stressor. What do you think I should do? Or here's what's happening. Like I am at a loss. Hey, this happened. I did this. It didn't go well. What can I do next time? So think of it as like a mini coaching session. And we're in real time. And so you get that feedback. And it's great because I see a lot of times like they'll say, oh yeah, this happened. And then you said to do this. So I tried that. Or you told me to tell my partner this. So I went to them and said, hey, Alicia said do this. So you're the bad guy. And they're like, oh, okay, I'll listen to her, but I'm not going to listen to you. Right. But I love seeing the transformations from like when they start to where they are now and like how different they've like there's so
Yeah.
much growth, so much growth.
Yeah.
So all things about me, you can find aliciakrasko.com.
Okay.
Social media, that's where I am too, like across the platforms, aliciakrasko.com. So I have the community and I offer one-to-one coaching as well.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. We're going to post all your social media info and contact info below in the video description. So I want to close out with asking you a question, because in your bio on your website, you say you're an adrenaline junkie. Is that right?
Yeah, that is correct.
So I would like to know what is your favorite adrenaline inducing activity?
Okay.
Or one of the favorites, let's say.
That I've done so far? Okay. So I've been skydiving. That was a little nerve-wracking for me. Like I was really excited about that. But before, I think we went skydiving before. We went on an African safari in 2018. And the couple that took us, like I'm still friends with, literally like talk to the wife daily. Like our kids are a week apart. Like, oh my gosh. But there was, on the way to Kruger National Park, there was this thing called, and we had put like on our questionnaire that we filled out with them that we like adrenaline stuff too. Mm-hmm. And so there was this thing that we could stop at called the Big Swing. Mm-hmm. And, you know, the husband had said, do you want to stop there and check it out? And so my husband and I were like, hell yeah, let's stop. Okay, Maria. So there we are. We like pull up. There's this sign that says the Big Swing. And I'm like, this is like in the middle of trees. Like, what are we doing? Like, what is happening? Yeah. And so he had kind of explained it to us, like, it's this big swing, you know, whatever. I'm okay, great. So we pay, we go to like the platform. This platform, I thought for sure I was going to die. I am like sweating just telling you about it. I thought for sure I was going to die. And so this platform, you just walk out. It's kind of like this janky, like wooden platform you just walk out on. There's like this hand crank of this rope that's got all these knots in it. It's just like knotted together. They harness you up. You walk backwards on the platform, put your heels over the ledge and just fall backwards. And you like swing down in this canyon.
Oh my
gosh. And I am like, no, that is not happening.
Sounds like a liability nightmare.
Absolutely. Like it's not, there's nothing like automated. Like it's all like hand cranked. And I'm like, what is the weight limit on this? First of all, how many people have done this? Like now I'm a little bit like, you know what? I'm going to like I'm going to backtrack and say like, no, thanks. But I'm like, Alicia, no, you have to do this. Right. So my husband, the other husband, and I do it. His wife is not like adventurous like that at all. But my husband is like nerves of steel. So he like backs up and he's like, see you later. Bam, just like falls. And I'm like, holy shit. Like he just like no fear like at all. And I'm like, that is scary. I don't know what just happened, but like that is really scary. And so now it's my turn. And I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like, oh, super sweaty, like super nervous. And the guy is like, okay, are you ready? And I'm like, not at all. Like, I am not ready. And he's like, okay, I'm not going to push you. And I'm like, thanks, because I will freak out. But he's like, okay, just fall back when you're ready. I'll count you down if you want. And I'm like, okay, so there's a little bit of pressure, but not like a lot of pressure. Mm-hmm. So I feel safe because I'm in control. Like I get to dictate like when I'm going to fall off. And so, but he's counting, right? It's an arbitrary like deadline of like when I have to fall. So he did it. And like, I felt it was awesome. It was super great. So it's like this really like 300 feet. So you like swing on this really big swing or like rope. It's not really a swing. You're just like hanging on this harness. But it's a really pretty canyon. There's people like up on the ledges, like watching you. Well, then now you're like way at the bottom. So it felt like there were like 5,000 steps to like get back up to the top, but there weren't. But yeah, you like take the steps back up and I was just like, awesome. Oh my gosh, I was really scared. When with skydiving, same thing. Like my husband, it was a tandem thing. Like he went out first and he was like, see you later. And then I was hooked up to my instructor and I didn't really realize that they were like gonna just like go. And I'm like, he's gone. Like I didn't even get to say goodbye. Like what is going to happen? Like, what are the parachute wheels? Right? I was like, oh my gosh. That was really cool too. It's really like when you're falling, you are obviously falling really fast, right? And they tell you to scream so you can breathe. Which fine, whatever. But then when they pull the parachute, it is so peaceful. It's so beautiful. It was really cold because we went in February, like down in Vegas, but like it was so peaceful. And then my guy is like, hey, do you like roller coasters? I do, of course. And so I'm like, yeah. So then we were like, you know, flying around, which was really, really fun. But I'm also like, is this But then, like, the logical part of me is like, is our parachute gonna collapse? Like,
Yeah.
wait a minute, can we
Yeah.
not like be super crazy? Because I like to be crazy, but also like, can we be in control of like the situation? Like,
Hmm.
wait a minute. Yeah, that was really really
That's
fun, and we've done like
awesome.
cliff jumping too,
Oh, wow.
um, which like that is really fun. One time we were down in Jamaica and we like cliff jumped there, and the guy was like, "Okay, it's your turn." My husband, same thing, boop, like right off. And I was like, "Oh, I'm a little bit nervous about this," because there was like rocks around, and so he's like, "You have to
Yeah.
jump like right into this spot." And I'm like,
Yeah.
"Woo."
You have to
um,
aim. You have to aim. Oh my God. I
right,
don't know if you
yeah.
can
And I'm
do
like,
that.
once I launch, like
Yeah.
what, like
Yeah.
where I'm launching. And then another
Yeah.
time we were up in northern Michigan, like up in the UP, and we like cliff jumped up there, and our daughter was uh 5 months old. And so my husband jumped first and then I jumped. So like, I'm like, okay, you have to, so we were like, it was hilarious because we like switch baby, like,
Holding
okay,
off the
you over
handing
there,
off the
I'll over there.
baby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was really
That's
fun. And we've
awesome
done some
though.
adventurous stuff with her too. And so she likes it too. So I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm
That's
training her
cool.
young.
That's very cool. That's very cool. Yeah, that's amazing. You guys are that's see, that's the thing. Like, life does not end after having kids. Some people say, "Oh, your life is never going to be the same." Yes, clearly it's never going to be the same.
Yeah.
But you still have the possibility to do all these amazing things and include the kids. Like my son and I
Mhm.
travel together all the time.
Right.
We love that. Yeah, I do all this. We don't skydive. I will never skydive. It's not I too high anxiety. I've done zip lining like over a canyon. That was
Oh,
awesome. Like I would do like I've done that. I would do that again. But that's very cool. I know we're running out of time, but Alicia, I really want to thank you for coming on today. You shared a ton of really, really good info, and I appreciate you sharing all your wisdom and years of experience with listeners. And if you guys want to contact Alicia, be part of the community, all the information will be down in the video description. So thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me. It's been great chatting with you.
Absolutely. Thanks.